Good morning, everybody. I am really sorry that I've been away for such a long time from doing videos here. My life has been completely and totally insanely crazy. And I've had so much going on, and there's still so much more going on. Some exciting news I'll share with you at some point in time, just not yet. Cool things that are coming, some big changes that'll be happening that are really fun, but I'll reveal those at another time. I had a request from somebody to do a video on circular square stitch. And boy, I really hope the sun is not going to be messing up with my filming too much. If it is, I'll just move to another spot, I guess, where it's not going to be such a bother. So I did have a request to do a circular square stitch. I'll be honest, this is not my favorite stitch to do. It's kind of floppy. And it needs to either be inside a frame or perhaps sewn onto some beadwork. And if I'm going to be doing something on beadwork, I would rather just do bead embroidery rather than the rosette circular square stitch. But I have had the request, so I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the pattern and the method of how you create circular square stitch. It's very different from the regular square stitch that I've shown, and there's definitely a little bit of I guess calculations that you have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works. It's really quite simple. And it doesn't matter whether you start with 6, start with 8, 5, 4, whatever. It all works out absolutely exactly the same. So I'll show you how that goes. I'm not going to do a pattern because that's where things get really complicated. So on this video, I'm going to show you how to do just the basic square stitch, and I'll use a couple of different contrasting colors. And then the next video that I do, I'm going to show you a different round stitch. I'm going to do peyote in the round. And that is my preferred stitch if I'm going to be making something that's circular. It's easier. It's way easier to work with patterns with circular peyote, way easier. And then the video after that, I will show you how to do this with a pattern. And then I'll do another video after that with circular peyote with a pattern too. So I'm gonna move my setup. I'm not very happy with the light here, and then we'll get started. I'll show you how all of this works. I'm gonna show you the method that I use, and this is probably one of the most common methods that you'll see for people calculating this out and figuring it all out. So. When we're calculating, so we have the row number here, and then how many beads we'll add on. As I said, it doesn't matter if you start with 8 beads or 6 beads, 5 beads, however many beads you want to start in. I don't really recommend starting in with 4 beads, just because you're not going to get much of a circle. And then anything bigger than 8, well, it's sort of pointless because you're going to just be adding more beads on anyway and making it bigger and bigger. And then the center hole is just going to be huge. So whether you start with 8 or not, this middle part, which I'll explain in a moment, doesn't change. It's always going to be the same. The key is however many you start with. So here it's 8. In the second row, and in fact all of the rows, you're going to add 8 to every row. So here, if I add 8 to 8, my second row means I have 16. If I add 8 to 16, I end up with 24. If I add 8 to 24, 32, and so on. So that's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And however many rows that you want to do. I typically don't really go much bigger than 10, I guess. I don't typically go too much So here's what happens. So when we've got 8 beads, we're going to start with 8 beads. And we want to add 8 on. So that means to add 8 onto that, we're going to put 2 beads over every single bead. When we add 8 onto that, when we go to the 3rd row, we're going to put 2 beads over 1 bead, then 1 bead over 1 bead. And that is a pattern that we're going to repeat. So we'll start 2 over 1, then 1 over 1. Then the next one will be 2 over 1, 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 1 over 1. When we get to the 4th row, we're going to start with 2 over 1, then we'll do 1 over 1, 1 over 1, and then we'll repeat that pattern of 3. And then when we go to the next one, 2 over 1, and then 1 over 1, 1 over 1, 1 over 1. Again, we repeat that pattern until we have completed the circle, and so on up to 6. If we were to do 6 beads, start with 6 beads, then this number would be 12, 18, 24, and so on as we go down the line. So those numbers will change, but this pattern doesn't. It just works out. So hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, it should make sense when I start the beadwork. So again, we're going to do 1 bead or 1 ring with just 8 beads. I'll start with 8. Then we'll go to 16 on the 2nd row where we have 2 on each, etc. And you'll see it works out quite neatly. When I was talking about the pattern earlier, this is where it can be a little bit confusing and problematic about how to fit that into a pattern. And by the way, what you'll notice here is that we've got 2 on every bead. And then we've got 2 on 1 and then 1 on 1. And you'll see how many the 1 on 1 expands by 1 every row. So on this one, it's just one section of 1 on 1 before we repeat the 2 over 1. Here it's 2, 3, 4. So that will expand by 1 on every single row. That's the easiest way to explain it. So let's see if I can make more sense of that for you in this way. So let's just leave that little guy there, totally in my way. And we're going to start with our 8 beads. So I'm trying to use contrasting colors here so you'll see how it works out. And I'm not going to be keeping this thing, so I'm just going to tie a little knot in it. Yeah, I'm not going to keep this. I have some other projects on the go, so I won't keep this one. Now, I don't want to pull this too tight, and unfortunately it seemed to have pulled it a little tighter than I wanted, but that's okay. We don't want it super tight together. If we have it really tight together, the next row of beads, you'll have a hard time fitting them on here. So don't tie a super tight knot. Hopefully you can see here, I've got actually a tiny little bit of a space there, about 1 millimeter between those beads, just so it can flow a little easier. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to move through that next bead, just to pull my knot into that bead there. And I'm going to also, I'm going to get rid of this tail because it's going to drive me nuts otherwise. I'll just cut that right down. I'm not using this anyway, so that's not working so good. There we go. I'm not going to be keeping this anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Okay. All right, so we've got our 8 beads on, so let's use our contrasting color. So the first row is 8 beads or 6 beads or whatever you choose, whatever number you want. So we're going to use our contrasting beads, and in order to get 16 on, we need to do 2 beads at a time. So my thread is coming out of this bead on this side. I'm going to come in behind and chase my tail again, essentially. It's a bit hard because my knot is right there too. Let me see if I can get out of the way of that knot. Might be a little tough, but I think I can do it. There we go. And so those 2 black beads are just going to sit on top of that single red bead. So I want to advance my needle into the next red bead. And now I'm going to pick up another 2 black. I really hope that I'm in frame here. Yeah, looks like I am. And I'm going to go through this bead that I'm coming out of. So my thread's coming out of there. I'm going to go through that bead again. And pull. So you can do them, just take your time as you're going around. Now I need to advance my needle again into the next one. And this inner ring will tighten up, by the way, as you continue to put your 2 beads at a time on. It will actually tighten up. Okay, and now I'm going to go back through that same bead. And to speed things up, I'm going to just also go through the next bead too. That just makes things move a little faster. You can either do them one at a time or go through the next bead in line. It just makes things a little quicker. Okay, and let's do that again. 2 beads, go through the bead I'm coming out of and through the next one. When you first start doing this, when you get to the end of this row, it's a good idea to actually count your beads and make sure that you do have 16 on, because it can get a little bit confusing because there's 2 beads over top of every single bead. All right. And when you get to the end, it just kind of looks a little bit confusing. It's hard to tell, did I go through that bead or not? So I'll show you when I go through this one. So I'll go through this bead, and I need to go through this next bead here too, but it kind of, because they're sort of crowded together, it already looks as though there's enough beads on there, although I can see a little gap here. But you should count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that means I'm too short. And I'm going to go back through this bead, and I'm going to step up into that black bead as well so I can get up into the next row to start. Okay, so that's my first 2 rows. Pretty simple. And that's what it should look like. And so now we're going to go to our 3rd row. We're going to start the 2 over 1, then 1 over 1. And we're going to continue that all the way around, and we should end up with 24 beads. All right, so now we want to start with 2 over 1. So pick up 2 red beads. And it's the same deal here. Okay, so I'm coming out of this bead going this direction. So I'm going to put my 2 over 1 over top of that one, and I'm going to just advance to the next bead. And I'm going to pull through. Kind of sort my beads out so they sit the way I want them to. Now I'm going to pick up 1 bead. And I'm going to go through that single bead that I'm coming out of already and move to the next one over. And I want to sort my bead out so it sits properly. So I did my 2 over 1. Now I'm going to do 1 over 1. Now I've got to go back to 2 over 1. So I'll pick up my 2 beads. And I'll go through that bead and into the next one over. And pull. Make sure they sit properly. Okay, so that was my 2 over 1. And now I'm doing my 1 over 1. And again, going through the same bead I'm coming out of and advancing to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to do this all the way around. That's all it is just 2 over 1 and then 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 1 over 1. And when I've completed this row, I'll come back and we'll start on the next one. Okay, so that was our row 3. Now we've got to go to row 4. Row 4 is 2 over 1, 1 over 1, 1 over 1. And then we repeat that pattern. And this is probably as far as I'm really going to go. I don't think I'm going to need to really go any farther than this because it's simple. It's just repeating that pattern. So we've got this 2 over 1. So I'm coming out of this red one. I'm going to go through, make sure I'm in frame here, sorry. So I'm going to go through that red one that I'm coming out of already, and then the next one beside it. So those 2 red ones. So I've got 2 over 1. And now I've got to do 1 over 1, 1 over 1. So I'll do 1 over 1. Keep getting caught on my mat. So 1 over 1 and 1 over 1. And you know, there's probably simpler ways of doing this. I just don't know myself of anything else. Okay, so we did these 2 over that one, 1 over 1, 1 over 1. So now we're going to do that again. 2 over 1. And now I've got to do 1 over 1. And then 1 over 1. So it's pretty simple. I'll do another one here for you and then I'll finish this row out. And then I think maybe I'll do one more row with you just to show you. It's a bit hard to get through these right now for some reason. Okay, so there's my 2 over 1. And I'm going to do 1 over 1. And then another 1 over 1. And now I just start my pattern again. So I will continue around the circle here, and then when I'm done I will come back and I'm going to show you row 5 or part of row 5, and I think by then you'll have it. Okay, down to my last couple of stitches, and one of the things that I do to make things a little bit easier for myself is I'll pull out the 1 over 1 stitches. So in this row it's 2 singles, 1 over 1, 1 over 1. So when I pick up my 2 over 1, so I'll pick those up first, and I'll go through the bead I'm coming out of plus the next one. It just makes it easier for me to know, okay, so I've got 1 over 1, and then, because again, coming towards the end here, it's kind of confusing as to, did I do that bead already or not? So I'll pull that out, my 1 over 1, and then another 1 over 1. So with this one, now it's time to step up. So I'm going through the red and the black up on top, so I can get to the next one up there. Okay, so with our next row now, we're on row 5. So it's 2 over 1 and then 3 1 over 1s. So what I'll do is I'll separate out 3 for my 1 over 1s. And then I'll pick up my 2 red, my 2 over 1. I'll go through the same black one that I'm already coming out of, and the next one over. Okay, and then we'll do, now I've got 3 of them there because it's 3 times 1 over 1. So through the black one and then the next one in a row. So 1 over 1. And a 1 over 1. And then the 1 over 1. now I'm ready to start a new cycle. So I'll separate out 3 of my beads, and I'll pick up my first set, which is always starting with the 2 over 1. And it's a little bit wonky at first, but it'll sort itself out. And now we've got the 1 over 1. One over 1. And then 1 over 1. So it's not difficult to do this. It's pretty simple, and some of those beads aren't laying too flat right now, but it will. So that's the basic idea. And what I would recommend is that you set yourself up a little chart like this, remembering that whichever one you start with, if you decide to do a 6 or an 8 or whatever, that you add 6 to each number below it, so you know how many beads specifically you have. And you can even pull out and count out 24 beads and set those aside. And then on the next row, pull out 32, 40, 46. It's not that many to pick up. And I really probably wouldn't recommend going more than, say, 8 to 10 rows. I just think that it gets too cumbersome then. But I mean, if you want to do it, then go for it. But I would just say, make sure at least you calculate out your beads here so you know what you're working with. And then you draw this little chart for yourself, just so you have an idea. And remember, it's going to work out exactly the same, whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8. And those are the numbers I would probably start with for circular stuffs. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, have fun with that. Yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all those other great things. Share this video, and yeah, we'll see you on the next video. And I will try very hard not to make it such a long time between my beading videos, but it's crazy. Oh, I wanted to show you something I'm working on. I have been going to lots of different conferences and stuff like that, and often they'll give you lanyards, and sometimes they're not super comfortable, and I don't like them that much. And I also like to make a bit of a statement, so I've made this lanyard right here, and this is for my friend Rob, and I made one for his wife Becky as well. He's got a company called Bear Paw Bushcraft, and so I made this for him, so he can actually wear this at all of the events that we all go to together. And then this is one that I made for his wife Becky, because she loves plants like I do. So I just created, yeah, just kind of split this this leaf. I split it into 2 to make the 2 sides. If you're really keen on learning how to make lanyards like this and how to follow the pattern, this is just square stitch, by the way, and I can do them in peyote or square stitch. But if you're interested in learning how to do this, leave me a comment down below, and if I get enough comments on how to do this, then I will do that on one of my videos. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys soon.